The situation in the Middle East seems so unpredictable that it changes literally every minute. Today, Iran announced the inevitability of war with Azerbaijan if it implements the Zangezur corridor project, and for some reason immediately brought Ukraine into the discussion. Iran suddenly shifted its attention from Israel to Azerbaijan and stated that Baku's plans for the Zangezur corridor to Nakhichevan are unacceptable. This is supposedly a serious threat to Iran's security, territorial integrity, a threat of separatism, and in general, Iran will find itself under siege. Since the plans to lease this corridor to the United States of America will completely trap Iran and cut it off from Russia and China. That's why Iran is ready to go to war against Azerbaijan just to prevent the creation of this corridor, which passes through the territory of Armenia. And in this episode, I will explain what the Zangezur corridor actually is and what significance it has for Azerbaijan. What do the United States of America have to do with this? And why is Iran so afraid of its creation and establishment? And most importantly, is Iran really ready to start a new war in the region just to strengthen its prestige and prevent the creation of this corridor? I'm Aleksei Pechiy. Today is July 27th. Let's go through it step by step. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, leave a like, write any comment, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel. The link is in the video description. And if you want to support the work of this channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video or by using the QR code on your screens. So let's go through everything step by step and put everything in order. The implementation of the Zangezur corridor project aims to undermine Iran's national security and the country's strategic ties. This was stated today by the closest advisor to Iran's leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on international affairs, Ali Akbar Velayati. Now I will quote Velayati, and then we will figure out what this corridor is all about and what the United States of America has to do with it. Quote from Velayati. The Zangezur Corridor Initiative is a geopolitical scheme promoted by the United States of America and the entrenched regime of Israel, aimed at weakening the axis of resistance. The severing of Iran's transport links with the Caucasus and the imposition of a land blockade on Iran and Russia in the southern part of the region. This project is not only part of America's strategy to shift pressure from Ukraine to the Caucasus, but is also supported by NATO and some pan-Turkic movements. Iran's national security remains a red line. End of quote from Velayati. So what is causing such panic in Tehran in the first place? Let's start with what exactly the Zangezur corridor is. As of today, I emphasize, this is a planned transport route that is supposed to connect the main territory of Azerbaijan with the Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic through the Shunik region in southern Armenia. Its length is about 40 kilometers, and the project is planned to include the construction of both a highway and a railway. If we look at the map, we will see that there is the main part of Azerbaijan and there is its exclave called Nakhchivan, which are separated by the territory of Armenia. This very Zangezur corridor is supposed to pass through this territory. According to the plan, this corridor will pass near the border with Iran, then from Nakhchivan this corridor will go to Turkey, from Turkey to Europe, and so on. But the thing is, another route was considered before. That's a corridor that would bypass Armenia and go through Iran. There were even agreements already in place to build a highway and a railway through the territory of Iran. They had even started laying the groundwork just to bypass Armenia. And then Azerbaijan, its main part, is connected to Nakhichevan through Iran. But it seems the choice has fallen on the Zangezur corridor. And now, an interesting point. The geographical location will allow the Zangezur corridor to become part of the so-called Middle Corridor. This is an international route connecting China and Europe through Central Asia and Turkey. As you can understand, Iran will be completely left out in such a scheme. That means nothing will pass through its territory anymore. Everything is connected through Azerbaijan, the Zangezur corridor, Nakhichevan, then Turkey, and then Europe. Azerbaijan sees the Zangezur corridor as a strategic project that will provide a direct land connection between the main part of the country and Nakhichevan, which was cut off more than 30 years ago. President Aliyev stated that its opening is inevitable, particularly in the year 2021. Aliyev stated that the corridor will be opened regardless of Yerevan's wishes, while Yerevan categorically rejects the concept of the Zangezur corridor as proposed by Baku. Armenia in particular fears that the transport route will cut the country off from the border with Iran and eventually lead to the loss of the Shunik region. But Iran in this situation fears that the Zangezur corridor will cut off its land access to Armenia and further distance it from the entire South Caucasus region. Tehran also does not want to lose its transit role in this region. And in addition, Iran fears that if such a corridor is created, ethnic Azerbaijanis in Iran will start a wave of separatism. But on the other hand, right now, Azerbaijan and the entire South Caucasus are forced to pay Iran a 15% duty for transporting goods through its territory. In short, to avoid repeating myself, Iran is completely left out of the scheme connecting China and the South Caucasus with Turkey and further on to Europe. And now it has become obvious that all sides cannot reach a peaceful agreement on the Zangezur corridor. It's not working out, so some kind of mediator is needed. Turkey is not suitable because it is 100% on Azerbaijan's side. Russia is not suitable because it has been weakened by the war against Ukraine and no longer has such influence in this region. Yes, plus they've also fallen out with the Armenian authorities. China hasn't gotten involved in this part of the region at all yet and isn't claiming it for now. And now Baku and Ankara are actually turning to the United States of America. After brief negotiations, the United States ambassador to Turkey, Tom Barak, suggested that America take control of the Zangezur corridor. Next, I will quote him: Azerbaijan and Armenia are arguing over 40 kilometers of road. But this is no joke at all. This has been going on for decades. And then America comes and says, all right, we'll take this under our control. Give us these 40 kilometers of road on a 100-year lease, and all of you will be able to use it. And here's another interesting point. Initially, the idea that the corridor would be managed by a private company approved by both Armenia and Azerbaijan was proposed by Turkey. However, Armenia noted that transferring control over the territory of the republic is not being considered at all. Nevertheless, it doesn't really seem like Armenia's position has stopped the United States, Turkey, or Azerbaijan. All three countries understand that the creation of the Zangezur corridor will not simply connect Azerbaijan with Nakhichevan. This plan will also finally deprive Iran of its natural land access to the South Caucasus through Armenia. It will make Iran completely, I emphasize, completely dependent on a route controlled by Azerbaijan or the United States of America. Some people, by the way, call this the geopolitical strangulation of Iran. And here it's important that in such a situation it will be the United States and Azerbaijan who will control the flow of goods between Iran on one side and Russia and the South Caucasus on the other side. Moreover, such a corridor will also push Iran out of China's Belt and Road Initiative, weakening its value as a partner for Beijing. Beijing will question Iran's necessity if this occurs. Just like that, 40 kilometers of road completely isolate Iran, since the route controlled by the United States will push Iran out of all trade between the East and the West. And what does Ukraine have to do with this, which Iran dragged into this situation? The fact is that this step is being taken at a time when Russia's influence in the South Caucasus is significantly weakening because of the war against Ukraine. Russia is simply staying silent and can't influence the situation right now, even though Iran is already desperately asking it to do so. So in Tehran, they've come up with the idea that this is some clever American plan to supposedly shift the pressure on Russia and Iran from Ukraine to Azerbaijan and partly onto Armenian territory. And here, it would be appropriate to remind that since 2021, when the idea of the Zangezur corridor was announced, Iran has been constantly conducting military exercises in this region, sending a signal that it will not accept such a situation. But if earlier Tehran could count on Russia's help in case of a conflict, now even Azerbaijan itself is humiliating Russia. Well, and Russia's relations with Armenia are also spoiled, so things are bad for Iran. Iran's ability to oppose any project at all is limited both because of the losses it has suffered in the Middle East and because of the conflict with Israel that it started last month. Tehran is hoping for stronger resistance from Russia to the Western presence. But changes in the balance of power are now leading to Iran having less and less influence. Relying on the Russians is definitely not worth it anymore. That's why in Iran they make such loud statements, saying they're ready, if necessary, to even go to war with Azerbaijan just to prevent the creation of the Zangezur corridor. But by the way, this is another trump card in the hands of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who can put the Ayatollah regime in Tehran in its place. So I'll leave it at that for now. Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe, hit the bell, and like the video. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone. Subtitles created by